Well, hello, my friends. It's Lynda Lippin, your host of the Pilates Goddess podcast. I am so happy to be with you today. I have not recorded in a while. I've had a lot of stuff going on. We can debrief on those things later, all having to do with kind of health and energy and making poor choices in regards to health and energy. Anyhow, moving forward, I really want to get into some deep discussions with you guys about safety, once again, and about proper training, and really how to focus on yourself and your clients in a way that keeps everybody safe while still getting a very good workout. You know, since I started teaching my Puff Puff Pilates Wake and Bakes, in dispensaries where we do a pre-class smoke session. I get a lot of questions from my current Pilates clients, studio clients. They'll say to me, how are people actually able to focus on Pilates and deal with that level of precision while they're stoned? And Lynda, how are you able to focus and keep up and tell left from right and tell left from right when mirroring people while you are also stoned? And I'm going to tell you how, because I am really good at what I do, because I am extremely well trained in Pilates, and because I choose my sativa strains for pre-class sessions very, very carefully. And because I am very used to how I feel when I'm using the plant. I, in fact, will tell people who come to my events, if you're not sure how you feel, maybe don't use right now, or maybe take one of the edibles in the goodie bag right now instead of joining us, for actually smoking. Just hang out and talk to us while we're all outside. It is not mandatory that people do it, but what I do find is that because my teaching is very clear at this point and very safe, and people understand that, they are able to relax enough to just listen to what I'm saying, to do what I'm asking them to do, and they have a really great experience of the work of the Pilates method in their bodies. Now, a lot of my clients have told me that they come to the studio stoned and always have. So there are plenty of your clients who are already doing this in terms of coming to the gym or the studio or, whatever workout environment they're going to, including Zoom, while they are on some form of cannabis or THC. Now, you'd be shocked, seriously shocked at the number of people. But what I want to say to you is, you know, you need to be comfortable, really comfortable in teaching people safely. And one of the big issues that I'm seeing right now online is that it's clear that Pilates teachers are not being trained well enough to teach large group formats safely for everybody, to the point where in the UK right now, they are considering an extra level of government regulation. Note that Pilates is highly regulated in the UK as it is. You need to get a government recognized certification. And what's happening now is there have been so many people injured. There have been so many people who have literally won lawsuits, won liability suits against Pilates studios in the UK, that now the government is considering starting to regulate UK studios and UK certifications. I have to tell you, I'm really not a fan of more government interference in people's lives generally, unless it's for some really, really good cause. And I'm kind of horrified that any kind of personal trainer or any kind of person who opens a studio that has group classes or personal training classes or anything where you're helping people with their bodies feels like they need to do it the cheap way, the cheapest and easiest way. This is what I see online. I see requests for, does anybody have alternatives to peak or balanced body beds? Not even reformers, my friends, just calling them beds, because they're too expensive to buy 30 of them for my new studio. I'm seeing group studios online who are teaching on inexpensive, like $300 home reformers that they clearly purchased on Temu or Amazon that are not built for studios, that are not built for that level of use. And I'm sorry, these things are still held together by glue and by rivets and by nuts and bolts and screws. And if those things start to come loose in the middle of a class, you are screwed and your client is injured. If the bar isn't locked down properly because there's 25 people in class and the teacher missed checking that one reformer for the locked bar, I can promise you that nobody is going to hold the client liable for not seeing what was wrong with the equipment. That's not the client's job. You may think, oh, well, they signed a liability waiver. Right. The liability waiver is things that are outside of your control. The liability waiver is for if I don't know, something breaks that you didn't know was going to break. Do things happen to springs sometimes? Yeah, they do, unfortunately. But most, the majority of these things that are coming up now are completely preventable by proper training and consistent safety checks. And clearly, as the industry evolves, these things are not happening. They're just not. So here's some things that I want you to think about, and I'm going to talk to you both as potential business owners as well as Pilates teachers, okay? Number one, if you're a Pilates client or you're interested in Pilates and you want to teach, the first thing that I want you to think about is not what it costs. What I want you to think about is the quality of instruction and what you actually want to do with that instruction. Now, if you say to me, I just want to take a weekend course, get brushed up on reformer so I can open up a reformer studio, I'm going to say to you, no. It's a really bad idea because you're not going to know who to hire. You're not really going to be able to train people well. And basically, at each level of teacher training, the method will devolve, right? Because you're going to have somebody who doesn't know a lot because they only took a weekend, then teaching people who might come in knowing nothing and then are getting kind of less than a weekend, right? And that's going to continue on down. Look for a comprehensive certification. Now, you guys know I'm big into the classical work, but at this point, just take a known comprehensive certification. Even if you don't know if you're ever going to teach all of the apparatus, it's really good to learn Pilates as the system that it's meant to be, because then when you can only work out or teach on one or two pieces or just mat or mat with magic circles and whatever else, you still have a really strong base to work from. Learning it piece by piece, I recommend starting with mat. Start with mat, because then when you do the reformer or you do other apparatus, you will be able to apply the principles that you learn in the mat to what else you do within the Pilates system. So all of this, again, is important for your comfort level with teaching bodies and for your clarity in being able to teach. You need always a plan. If that bar is up and you're getting ready to do any kind of long stretching or planking work, And that bar, if, depending on the kind of reformers you're on, if that bar needs to be locked in or down, it needs to be in your classroom speech, in your classroom pattern, in your classroom script, that the bar gets locked and how the bar gets locked. Before you get on in the plank position, look down at your foot bar and make sure that the bottom is locked in place. And here's what it should look like, and here's what it should sound like. Pull up on it, make sure it doesn't lift easily. Great, awesome. Let's everybody get on and do the exercise. Yeah, it takes a couple of seconds, but you want to know something? Somebody doesn't get hurt. And I find it really interesting that instead of teaching the full Pilates system in a lot of these large group classes, because somehow the exercises are dangerous to teach in a group setting, instead they're getting replaced with exercises that are just as dangerous to teach in a group setting and aren't really Pilates. Okay, so if I feel like if more people came at this with a full-on comprehensive Pilates background, okay, then you would understand how to safely teach the method, how to safely build on the method, and then whatever teaching environment you're in, you're always going to have that in your background. You're always going to have that in your corner. Okay, like the order of the exercises, I talk about it a lot here on the podcast. If you go back, I go through the entire mat, I go through, a lot of the work because I think it's important to know. And in fact, I also did a breakdown of reformer, and I think I'm going to bring that back over the next few weeks so you can hear how the reformer then relates to the mat and to the rest of the system. Because once you understand that and you have the order in the background, then you are freely able to create flows or whatever the hell you want to call them that will help your clients and still be Pilates and be safe and be effective. All right. My clients get extremely safe, effective workouts all the time. But it's partly due to clarity and to my comfort level with the work. And not just with the work, right? I mean, I also have a personal trainer certification. I also have a kettlebell certification. I also have a TRX certification. Like I have many other certifications. I've got Pilates for golfers. I have many things. But at the base of everything that I do is the Pilates method and the order. So if you are, teaching standing things on the reformer that are not just basic side splits or skaters or scooters or whatever speed skaters, whatever you want to call them, um, then I don't understand why you're doing kind of fancy standing stuff with ankles and straps or hands and straps. Give people the basics of the Pilates method first, and then if you want to kind of go crazy on them, at least they know what they're capable of at the base. Okay, just keep people safe and keep yourself safe because it's so important to be able to walk into work every day and know that you haven't hurt people. It really is. I think I can say that in 37 years, I have not done that. Or if I have, I'm really sorry. And I think I've helped more people than I hurt in that process. But I always stayed in my lane. If people came to me and I wasn't sure I could help them, I sent them to somebody with more experience. That's a lot of it is knowing who's around you, knowing who you're comfortable working with. And then you'll find that your community really spreads. I've had people come up to me after a Puff Puff Pilates class to let me know that they were referred to me by somebody who mentored with me, or a teacher who trained with me, or one of my colleagues at Bombshell. Uh, there's a whole community of people who then find me, whether it's in the studio, whether it's at a Puff Puff event, but they come because they know they're going to be safe and they're going to get a good classical Pilates class. And then they bring their friends and then they bring their families and then they bring, their coworkers. And so now I've ended up with this giant community of people who are really all connected in some way, but really appreciate the fact that they're going to come and they're going to do something really good for their bodies, right? Good for their minds, good for their spirits. Everybody leaves feeling better. And that's the thing. Everybody needs to leave a Pilates class of any form feeling better. It doesn't matter if your ass is quivering. It doesn't matter if you feel a lactic acid burn during your workout. Because come on, people, do we not know that all that burn is after you've done like 50 of something is just lactic acid buildup that needs to be worked through your muscle, that needs to be worked through your body? I mean, this is just science, but it doesn't mean any extra special strengthening or any extra special toning or any extra special anything is going on. It's simply the body's response to too many things, which is lactic acid buildup and a big burn and lots of soreness later. Personally, that's not what I seek in a workout. I seek more strength, efficiency, form, function, and effectiveness at this point. If you haven't listened for a while, I'm getting my hip replaced on July 10th. So, I need a different level of stuff in my body right now. And I certainly don't need to be doing like 50 of something until my glute medius and my piriformis, can't work anymore. This does not need to happen to me. Now, as a studio owner, I also want you, to consider once again creating an environment that's really good for your teachers as well as your clients. If you're going to have massive group reformer classes, I actually recommend having more than one teacher on the floor. Have one teacher on the floor teaching, speaking the exercises, have another teacher walking around, checking people's form and making sure they're doing things at least semi-correctly. Uh, I also, recommend don't go the cheap route, get good equipment. Don't have people working on home grade equipment in a commercial environment, because I'm telling you right now, if you get sued, you're going to be screwed. If you get sued, you will be so fucked if you're using home grade equipment in a commercial environment and something happens to anybody due to some fault in that equipment, because that apparatus is not made to be used every hour on the hour, every day, all the time. You know, I have to tell you that everybody complains about the cost of Pilates equipment, but there's a reason why it's expensive and it really does last forever with just inexpensive proper maintenance. And the cost has always been high. It's not like all of a sudden, Pilates got popular and everyone increased the price of the apparatus. The apparatus prices have increased along with inflation and everything else over the course of time. I think the issue that people are feeling right now is that pricing for Pilates classes and for Pilates privates has not really gone up the same. Neither has what studios pay Pilates teachers. And that's a whole nother discussion that we could have about why this is so, why Pilates studios are so scared to raise their pricing, why everyone decided to go volume versus quality, quantity versus quality on the Pilates boon, how that relates actually to a lot of things like venture capitalism and, things that we don't need to discuss right now. My issue right now is safety. Safe, safe, safe. Keep Pilates safe and effective. Like I said, at this point, I don't care if you're classical, I don't care if you're contemporary, I don't care if you're teaching SLT. Keep things safe. Okay? Especially if you're teaching at one of the big box studios, you're teaching on usually quality equipment, right? Whether the studio itself has its own equipment line, as many do, or whether they are using a balance body, a stot, a Gratz, whatever. Understand that that is quality equipment and that you're going to be paying more for classes in those environments. You just are. Hopefully those studios are also paying their teachers more, so everybody is kind of getting the love spread throughout the studio. Also remember how much it actually costs to run a business. If your staff are employees and you're dealing with, matching Medicare, Social Security, state, local, federal taxes, sick pay, 401k matching, possible health and life insurance. I mean, there's just a lot. There is a lot. Here in New York City, if you've got even a storefront or even an upstairs studio, you are paying upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 a month in rent, as well as utilities costs. I mean, it's no joke to open a studio. Then you've got the equipment costs. Then you've got, the marketing costs. But at the end of the day, the place to save money is not on the quality of your staff, on their training, or on the quality of the apparatus that people are on. Okay, that's not. Can we just not go there? Can people just safely expect that they're getting high quality, known manufacturer Pilates apparatus that's been around for a while that has been maintained? There's just little things that I feel like are the minimum that people should expect as clients, right? Comprehensively trained teachers who understand safety, who understand the equipment that they're working on, who understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? Decent equipment, and the expectation that they're not going to get hurt and that they will be coached and talked through their exercise flows, whatever you want to call them, in a way that will be clear and will allow them to experience the awesome effects of Pilates on their bodies and not get hurt. So guys, that's all I wish for you in this week. I'm just really disturbed by all of this that I'm seeing about all the cheap and easy questions that I'm seeing online, including things like, I really want to get my reformer certification. Is there an online reformer certification that I can do in a weekend? Guys, that's not the way. No, that is not the way to approach this, because you will hurt people. I promise you, you will. And then you're going to feel like shit. They're going to feel like shit. It drags the whole thing down. Just get some proper training. Seriously. Seriously. Get some proper training and you will be so much better off and you will feel so much better. All right. I am going to start popping those reformer videos or reformer audios back up into the queue. And as always, I love you guys so much. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, leave a 5-star rating, write a review. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.